What's up?
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Burning Question series and episode 18 already, presented by Fantasy Football Scout. In this series, Pras and I, Sonaldo, talk about the key hot topics for the week. Firstly, I apologize for last week's technical difficulties. I wasn't able to join. Thank you for filling in, our good friend Ted. And Pras this week is joining us from New York. So, Pras, how are you doing and how's your trip going?
I'm all right, thank you. Trip is going all right. Yeah, and I apologize in advance if the sound quality isn't as great. I didn't carry my pod speakers
You sound
and
great so
microphone.
far.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So for today's topics, we're going to go through the updated fixture ticker quickly, and then we'll do, look at Game Week 32 in isolation, especially the fixtures. And a very interesting thing of Game Week 32 is the City versus Liverpool, hence our title, Clash of the Titans. And then I'll do a quick fun dive into some City tactics, and then we'll do captaincy shouts as well as our bus teams at the end. So a pretty fun, lighthearted, burning questions episode for Game Week 32.
As you can see from Sonaldo's hat, which is
Yeah.
I was going to comment on it. Is this the new look, Sonaldo? The new streaming look?
No, I actually, yeah, I guess so. I did keep it casual from the suit last week where it didn't work out. So hopefully, a hat actually makes technical difficulties less painful. But by the way, what time is there, Pros, for you? Because it looks like you just
It
woke up.
it's like 9 o'clock. Oh, but I woke up at 4 a.m. because I'm still working London time, so not ideal. But I'm fully awake and here for everyone.
Awesome. And shout out to the chat and welcome. Thanks for joining, guys. I see some good friends there. Mike, I see you. And Mihir, of course, I see you too. But okay, first things first. The fixture ticker as presented by Lego Mane. A couple quick notes. 10 confirmed game weeks for game week 36. Leicester have a very interesting home game against Everton and Norwich, both at home, I guess. And so if they do get knocked out of Europe, it could be a very interesting thing to load up on some Leicester assets. Proceed with caution, of course. Tottenham double in 36 as expected, and their fixtures around it is very good. So that was confirmed, and 37 has some confirmed doubles as well. Burnley versus Tottenham and Villa away both. Leicester at versus Watford away, Chelsea home, and Everton, Brentford home, and Crystal Palace away, and Villa with a likely double for now. With this being said, there's a lot of permutations and things that can change. And most importantly, the main fixture that hasn't been scheduled is the Man City versus Wolves, which can either fall into game week 36 or 37. So very interested to see what happens there. I want to say that, I'm about to go through a little bit of the permutations very lightly. Lego Mane, Ben Krellin, and Planet FPL, as well as FPL Wire today, so far did a fantastic job of sort of explaining every single permutation. And I know process is kind of your. I'm laughing at the comment that Prakash made. We managed to stream live, by the way, and on time. I'm very proud of that. So maybe we're a minute late, but yeah. So do go into those streams as well as Twitter for probably a better explanation than I'll do right now. But basically, I don't think the Chelsea one matters too much. Simply put, Man United versus Chelsea could drop either in 34, 35, or 37 as we look at it. 37 is very tricky because it becomes a Tuesday, Thursday turnaround. So much rotation risk there and probably somewhere we don't want to go. The Villa one is very interesting thing. Villa with a likely double of 36, 37. We expected Villa, Leeds, Chelsea, and Burnley to have a double possibly in 34, 35, which is now not confirmed. So likely Villa has a double of Burnley, Liverpool, followed by Crystal Palace and Burnley for 36 and 37. And then finally, as we go back to the main one, is when is City going to drop? And if simply put, the main factor will be West Ham versus Lyon in the Europa League quarterfinals. And this will end, the second leg will end on April 15th, which is not far from now. And it'll be prior to the Burnley game in game week 33. So if that does happen, then 100% Man City will drops into game week 37. So by the time game week 33 comes around and West Ham beat Lyon in the quarterfinals, then that game drops into 37 and we have a double for Man City. If West Ham lose to Lyon in the Europa League, FA Cup semi-final between City and Liverpool becomes a factor. And if City beat Liverpool, then they double in 36. If City lose to Liverpool in the FA Cup, then they double in 37. So that's kind of the gist of the permutations and the fixture announcements. With this being said, upon first glance and first look at everything, for wildcard holders, it's still not much has changed significantly, except that holding till 34 will, I guess, prove to be a little bit of an advantage as we'll get more clarity. But we already knew about this. And then an interesting thing is that a wildcard 34 for me possibly is changing the way I'm thinking about bench boosting. Because I might bench boost in 37 now versus 33, and I'll explain later why. But mainly because, first of all, Palace impressed very, very much against Arsenal yesterday, and Palace and Villa have great fixtures leading up to 36, and you could kill basically two birds with one stone if you decide to go that route and free hit in 36. Because again, as we mentioned 2 weeks ago, and especially you did, Pras, the 36 bench boost is not as appealing as a 33 bench boost. So I am now switched my tactics around to thinking about bench boosting in 33, which is still an option, but a bench boost in 37 now comes into play as well. So very, very interesting things here. First things first, I would like to know your thoughts, Pras, and on the fixture announcement and changes.
Yeah, so let's come to the strategy in the second slide. So
Yes.
if you're talking only of the fixtures, I think, like you said, kudos to James at Planet FPL and Ben and Legomani. I mean, a lot of this was as predicted. So what is different? I mean, we did a stream 2 weeks ago and we talked about the fixtures and how they would fall. What is different is, I think, obviously the Burnley game not happening. You mentioned this a few minutes ago. So there's no Burnley double in 34, 35. And I think the most likely outcome is there will be nothing in 34, 35.
Mm.
Because the only way the 34 double happens is Chelsea need to lose to Real Madrid and they need to very quickly reschedule the game. So I don't think that'll happen because they'll look after the fans. And I think the Chelsea Man United game can't happen in 35 because Man United play on the Monday night and they play on the Saturday. There's no space in the middle. So 34, very low likelihood. 35, the only thing that can happen is Palace having the double, which you mentioned as well. Again, that is only contingent on Palace beating Chelsea in the FA Cup, which again is less likely. Although, given how Chelsea performed over the weekend, anything is possible, but we're going by probability. So we should work off the assumption that 34, 35 is basically as it is, and there's no change.
And no Gallagher plus against that game, so big factor
Correct.
there.
In the FA Cup semi-final,
Mm.
correct. So then that gets us to 36, 37. 36, for me, the big change from what we were thinking was Palace don't have a double anymore. So for bench boosters in 36, the one saving hope of a forward who's showing form in Mateta is not even doubling. Now, that may not be an issue because actually Palace's game is fairly easy. So they play Watford at home in 36. You could still bench boost in 36 with a single Palace forward as well.
Mm.
But other than that, 36 is pretty much as people predicted. I mean, the Liverpool double is what we predicted. The Chelsea double is what we predicted. Leicester, Southampton, Arsenal, everything's fallen pretty much how people thought it would. 37, a word of caution, especially in relation to what you're talking about in terms of your strategy. 37 could be a week where it's a nothing game week, where even though there's doubles, the single game weeks are pretty easy and you can navigate it chipless and you don't actually need to use a free hit or a bench boost. Or it could land in a way where you will need to free hit that week if you want to really maximize it. For example, if the City double happens in 37, for me, even though you want to target City players earlier, I think getting the right City players ahead of a double is something else, right? I mean, you can say, I'm going to go for a Foden and a Cancelo now. But what if Foden has played the last 3 games 90 minutes? You probably want to back a Sterling instead of a Foden. So we'll come to a deep dive on City later. But I think attacking the City double, if it happens in 37, will make free hit 37 also a very appealing game week. So 37 is the one which is a little bit open, and that's mainly because of the City game that you mentioned. So I don't have anything else to add in terms of how the fixtures have fallen. I think what is interesting is how now people strategize around it. So the Venn diagram that our friend Spaceman, sorry, what's his Twitter handle? Do you have it?
FPL_spaceman. Yep, that's
Yeah,
correct.
absolutely loved that in terms of how that was
Yes.
presented. So I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, I mean, first things first, before we get to the Venn diagram, is I did an exercise where prior to this announcement, I sort of eliminated 33 and 36 and just looked at the rest of the fixtures. And I think the same thing would happen even if you included 37. But basically, what I got out of it was the teams with good fixtures that stand out are Arsenal, City, Spurs, Burnley, Leicester, Chelsea. The teams with tough fixtures that stand out are United, Leeds, Southampton, Everton, West Ham. So basically, what that means is that especially for those with less chips or even no chips, your transfers leading up to whatever these doubles announcements are should be very similar. You're loading up on the premium teams and the premium assets regardless of the announcement. So keep that in mind. And again, FPL_spaceman, I think he sort of busted out this Venn diagram a couple game weeks ago, and it sort of hit home with a lot of FPL managers on Twitter, and it was also a throwback to very old school. I remember like elementary school we used to do this stuff. So very nice to see, and there's this whole like debate on not debate, but a lot of people bringing out their fixture tickers and diagrams and this and that on Twitter, and it just depends on what you want and what you like to see. I think all of it is fine and all of it is good. So the reason why I'm sticking to Lego Mane personally is because I'm just used to it now, and that's just the way I like to see my fixture ticker. So shout out FPL_spaceman. Do give him a follow if you do have a chance. Upon first look on this Venn diagram, one team stands out right in the middle and center of it all is Leicester, which have 3 doubles in 33, 36, and 37. There's a double for Arsenal in 33 and 36. There's a double for Burnley in 33 and 37. There's a double for Everton in 36, 37. And then there's possible doubles for Villa, Chelsea, I think. And again, Wolves City will drop between either 36 or 37 as seen in the Venn diagram. So just another cool way to visualize the fixtures coming up in the doubles. So anything to
Yeah,
add,
Leicester's
Pras?
the double double as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
look, given that there's not going to be any doubles, material doubles outside of this, this is what you use to plan, right? If you have no chips, go for a Leicester type team. Now, there are caveats around this. How difficult are the doubles, the European football rotation? But if you have to take everything out and say, what are the teams to target? I think this is the perfect diagram. If you're chipless, for example, you see in the middle, Leicester is the only team in the league that have a double in 33, 36, 37. So if you want some coverage, for example, like a Schmeichel, not bad at all. You get somebody who have a keeper who'll double in all the 3 doubles, you're covered. If you're basically looking to free hit, what you need to do is remove the 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 outer part of the circle, if you see what I mean. So um, let's say you're free hitting in game week 33, then remove Manchester United, Brighton, Newcastle, and Southampton from here, and then you look at what are the other teams I should be targeting for my normal transfers,
Mm.
because the ones that are in the circle will be part of your free hit anyway. So that's the way I would think about it if you're looking to plan one. Now I know a lot of people are thinking about when exactly to free hit, so we'll come to a strategy discussion in a second, but I like this a lot. I like this because it tells me which are the teams to target for which particular game week. So another example why I liked it, game week 36, there's a lot of doublers, right? But if, for example, I'm only targeting the big teams like Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, Spurs, I can ignore all the teams that are only doubling in game week 36, which includes West Ham, Watford, Norwich, Leeds. I don't need to go to them because I won't be targeting these teams for the double in 36. So again, another way of visualizing this and seeing which are the teams to target.
Mm.
Putting aside all of that, I think the main takeaway from this, what we had 2 weeks ago as well, is this doesn't change anything in terms of the teams to target because those are still the ones with the best fixtures, with the best doubles, and the teams to back for the run in.
Yep. Yep. I like the way you explained it. Again, just an alternative way to visualize the doubles as well as pick out the players you want according to the Venn diagram. So, yeah. Should we talk about the sort of the chip strategy briefly here, especially the free hits,
Yeah.
including 33, 36, and 37?
Yeah. So
Mm,
I'll talk about free hit first because that's
mm,
the one I'm giving most thought to. You then talk about your wildcard and bench boost and how that interplays, right?
mhm,
So for me, free hit, again, nothing has changed because what we talked about double game week 33 still holds true. The fact that most single game week teams that are doing well, that are in form, have a good fixture, they are still the ones to back. So
mhm,
for me personally, my strategy remains 33 I can navigate because I can back a City, a Liverpool, and a Spurs in a single game week against the Brightons, the Newcastles, and the Manchester Uniteds, even in a double game week. So I'm going to try to optimize it slightly. Maybe I'll have a Leicester player because that'll help me later as well. But I'm not going to play a free hit in 33. So that's the first thing that I have thought about. People with two free hits, I think you just go for game week 33 and you keep the second one for later. But the second one for later for me right now is completely open. I am building a team that will look very good in game week 36 anyway. But I'm open to the fact that if you've seen what happened with Arsenal, right?
mhm,
It takes one game week, a couple of injuries, and the whole picture changes. Suddenly people are thinking on wildcard 34, I don't need any Arsenal. Now,
mhm.
come on. 2 weeks ago, we were saying this is the tier one team or the tier two team. They're fighting for Champions League. They're looking good. Of course, the Tierney injury is big. The Party injury is big. Things change. So you can sit here today and think my game week 36 team is fine, but going back to the old discussion we had, that's a 180-point game week 36. So if you're not well set up for it, that's the week I want to use my free hit in. Now, let's assume you've reached game week 35, everything looks fine, your team still looks great. You have the right Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, City and Liverpool guys, fine, don't play it and then keep it for 37. The optionality of keeping it for 36 or 37 still holds true because the City double could land in 37, in
Yeah,
which case I think for me 36 would be very easy to navigate without.
yeah,
If the City double lands in 36, then probably moving a Spurs assets to get more of the City assets could make sense on a free hit. What I'm trying to say is from a free hit perspective, my play is navigate 33 and then see what comes for 36, 37. The beauty about the free hit chip in this particular strategy is I don't need to change my transfers. Usually a free hit works very well because you're trying to avoid the players in that game week and basically work around the free hit. I don't think this is true for this regardless of when you free hit because the players to target remain the same. You just see where you are in game week 36 or 37. I think the one other point is 37 free hit for me also looks appealing
mm,
because number one, the small chance that, and it's not that small, that Chelsea lose. So if Chelsea lose the FA Cup semi-final, they'll have a nice, interesting double, well spaced out.
yeah,
So for me, the Chelsea double, the issue is the spacing of it. Because if they're in the final, they'll play on the weekend. The Man U game will be on Tuesday, and the Leicester game is on Thursday, which basically nullifies everything because they'll obviously put out the first team in the final, and then they'll probably just either split or have a full team and a second team playing one game. So neither of those are helpful for people who are having James, even Rudiger. I think Zoff mentioned in the chat or in the pod on the wire earlier, he doesn't even trust Rudiger in that Tuesday Thursday game
yep,
week.
yep,
So if Chelsea end up having a good double, they're out of the FA Cup. If and we've already seen Villa's double is excellent, Everton's double is excellent. That's worth targeting on a free hit for me because those are not teams that you will have likely. So if you can have from Villa, Palace and Burnley at home, if you can have a Cash, a Coutinho, and then you have the other doublers around it, I think it's worth it. Now, the main issue with Game Week 37 is the same one in Game Week 33. Spurs is home to Burnley. Man City is away to West Ham. I think, again, if they don't double, you're okay with just Cancelo maybe. But Liverpool also are, who are they playing? Away to Southampton. So are you really going to back against Salah, Trent, your Spurs boys? You'll probably have five from them and anyway. So I think in summary, you can either free hit in any week or you can not free hit in any week. There is no one particular week that works. The teams to target are the same. it for me, I will go through 33 and then I will see how 36 and 37 land. That's basically my way.
Yep, yeah, I'm fully with you now. I do agree with you, and I remember before my transfers last game week, I was speaking to you for another what 30 minutes to an hour, and kind of what I did was exercise a BB 33, and I showed you exactly why I might shift strategies. Again, it's very team dependent. And on the point of free hit 33 that you're mentioning, would you suggest that maybe 4 to 6 doublers plus the premiums is completely fine to field as a starting 11?
On a non-free hit, right?
Uh, on a non free hit, exactly. Yeah,
I think most people will have that because
exactly.
Arsenal people will have two or three. Now, obviously, those that don't have they have Tierney or have White, maybe debating
Hmm.
whether they want double defense. But I think most people have two Arsenal.
Yeah,
Most people have, a couple of Liverpool. Liverpool is a single game week, but you're fine with that. Most people will have a Weghorst, a Broha. Most people will have a Leicester defender. So I think getting four or five doublers is no issue at all.
exactly.
Um, and the single game weeks are fine as well. Now, people who are free hitting in 33, there is enough upside here. We've talked about it. You're just taking a little bit of a risk. And I think go all in. If you're going for game week 33 free hit, don't be too afraid. Go back against a Salah, back against, you don't have to go De Bruyne. Go for Bruno and Ronaldo because that's your upside. And like we mentioned earlier, if Man United end up thrashing Norwich and possibly getting a result, they probably won't win, but maybe getting a draw out of Liverpool,
Liverpool. Yep.
you're laughing, right? So
Yep.
that's basically the strategy. So there is no bad week to free hit. You're just taking a higher risk slightly, maybe if you're going 33 or 37, because you're backing against single game week teams that have good fixtures.
I think like exactly as you put it, game week 33 comes down really to how much risk taking you're willing to do in terms of how much gambling you're willing to do with the United assets, because you could really load up on them, and if they do well against Norwich, then you're laughing after the first game. But as you know, in any double game week, especially how burnt we are by Weghorst over the past few game weeks, a bad first game in the double game week, and you're just sitting there thinking, why did I do that? Especially with Liverpool in the second game. So proceed with caution. As you mentioned, if you don't have wildcard and just let's say maybe two free hits, or not two free hits, but one free hit left, 36 definitely still makes sense because you don't want to be loading up on the alternatives for a free hit in 33 in United, Newcastle, Burnley, Everton, and Southampton, which all teams, as I mentioned previously, are teams you want to sort of load off of eventually. Maybe Newcastle is the exception here. So with that being said, in my case, as someone with a free hit, bench boost, and a what else do I have? I'm blanking right now.
Wild card.
Wild card,
You can give me a
exactly.
wild card if you don't need it.
Yeah, and a wild card is that a I was thinking of a bench boost 33, wildcard 34, and a free hit in 36. And I'm still there. That's still a very possible option. And 36 free hit mainly because I want to field as strong of a starting 11 as possible. And as you mentioned, it's a 130 point game week plus, as in the variance is going to be big that game week. Of course, the variance will be big whether you get it right or you get it wrong in terms of picking out the right players. But you would reckon that most people will have such a massive game week that you don't want to fall behind, and that just means that you should probably play some sort of chip in game week 36 or build towards a strong game week 36 without any chips, regardless. So, with that being said, a possible switch now is a wild card in 34 or possibly even 35, free hit 36, get those Spurs guys out of the way for a second, and then bench boost in 37. And the appeal here would be that I could bench boost with Crystal Palace and Aston Villa in 37, I believe. And Crystal Palace at home is a dangerous team, in my opinion, and they look really good. The rotation is there, the risk is there, but defensively at home, Crystal Palace look really, really good. So maybe a stronger bench boost here. But the reason why I'm still not moving away from a bench boost in 33, again, this is team dependent, but my bench right now for 33 is four doublers because four doublers, including the likes of Broya and Livramento. I can't remember exactly top of my head, but it'd be De Gea, Broya, Livramento, and I believe Weghorst on my bench for 33. And I would have six other doublers in my starting lineup, so that's 10 doublers on a bench boost, with 8 extra games in a 33 bench boost. So I am there right now. I'm considering it. The risk is highly on the Southampton guys who have really not been performing very well.
Yeah,
So
look, I
yeah.
mean, it'll come down to which team you want to back on the bench,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and by the way, for the listeners, we don't have to we fix it. This is the problem with the bench boost. I mean, the whole strategy is determined on who do you want on the bench, and it's actually should be who should I want in my 11
Mm-hmm.
leading up to the game week, right? People who don't have a wild card, for example, their next few transfers are going to be taking out Broha to whoever is doubling. So, Watkins or Mateta. So this is the main issue with the bench boost. If you can get it out, if you're convinced with the Southampton fixture, so who's Southampton playing in 33? Southampton is playing
Arsenal,
Arsenal
Burnley.
and Burnley
Mm-hmm.
away. Um, Look, I think both Livramento and Broha are slight rotation risks. Southampton are not convincing. But I think having two doublers always gives you this upside. You can just chance it, right? I mean, this is the time in they could do well in one out of the two games, and then you're laughing because on bench boost, basically you need one return um, from your doubler, and then you're happy. So that's one point. The other one you raised, I think the Burnley double. So Weghorst, you're saying you'll also have in your bench.
Mm-hmm.
So the Burnley double is West Ham away, Southampton home. Again, West Ham away not so great, Southampton home fine. Again, I think he's a fine player to have on the bench boost. And then De Gea, I think is probably the best keeper in 33 if you're on a free hit because you probably get a Norwich clean sheet, you get some saves against Liverpool, he'll probably concede against Liverpool, but not a bad shout at all. So you already have a good, decent base if you wanted to bench boost in 33. And we are trying to be generic here, not just on Sonaldo's team. For other people looking at it, I think most people will have Southampton players on their bench, maybe Burnley. Others, let's say, could have Leicester, but they probably be in your first team in terms of players to bench boost with. Some people could be bench boosting with single game weekers. So if you have Kulusevski, if you have who else are popular players? Maybe even Doherty. I think that's fine, right? I mean, you could still bench boost with those guys because they're home to Brighton, and that's a good enough fixture to attack the bench boost. So I think 33 bench boost has a lot of merit. It has the risk as well because you're backing a team like Southampton that is not showing the signs, and they end up losing both their games. You say, look, the signs were there. I could see it. Why did I back a team like Southampton? So I get it.
Mm.
Um, when you get to game week 36. So a lot of people are still debating bench boost in 36. I know, Sonaldo, you talked about not probably moving away from bench boost in 36. I actually think bench boost in 36 is still a
Yep.
very good option,
Yep.
simply because you don't have to have doublers on your bench, right? We fixate so much that we need to have four players playing two times. Go for Mateta on your wild card and play him
Yeah,
because
but
Mateta.
Pras, easy to say, right? Easy to say, because as someone with a wild card, it's I get it, but it's hard to just say I'm not going to get doublers on my bench when I have the wild card option. Wouldn't you say?
You should get it, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're basically spoiling the whole week when you're bench boosting or basically on your wild card, if you're going to bench boost in 37, your team will have more of Villa and Crystal Palace players,
True.
correct?
Yeah.
Because you're going for those players. Now, those players in Game Week 38 play Man City away and Man United at home.
Mm.
You could argue, fine, Palace could do well as well because they just battered Arsenal at home. But what I'm trying to say is if it dilutes the rest of your team just for that one extra game, for that one extra guy on your bench, that may not be exactly the way. And
Mm-hmm.
what happens if City are in 30, 36? Will you have a lot of City on your wildcard or not? So I'm just trying to play devil's
Yeah.
advocate
Yeah.
in terms of how will you structure the bench boost? And then the idea is that you want to be as close to the bench boost as possible. A lot of people, there's a niggle in your team. That'll be the transfer you'll make, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
not getting Foden in. You'll have to basically, let's say you had Tierney right now in your team. You would seize all other plans. And if you were bench boosting in 33, you'd have to fix Tierney first because you cannot bench boost with Tierney. So what I'm trying to say is when you feel ready, get the bench boost out of the way, of course, with the caveat that quality is still important. So 33 we've talked about. Let's just spend 36, sometime on 36 for a second in terms of if you were to bench boost, what would your bench look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, forwards. Forwards were the main issue in bench boost 36.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So Watford have a double Palace away, Everton at home. So Cucho, I'm not saying go for your fifth Watford forward for the season, but he could be an option. Pookie could be an option. So a lot of people are looking at Pookie and Cucho as their uh, you know, second and third striker. So Norwich play West Ham at home and Leicester away. Not a bad shout. I think Pookie is fine. Um, who else has a decent double? So Everton's double is actually not bad as well.
Leicester,
Is
Watford,
Leicester
yeah.
away and Watford. So if you wild card in 34, 35, you will probably end up having a DCL or a Richarlison anyway because of their very good double in 37. So why not 36 as well? So here I'm not trying to change your mind, Sonaldo. I'm basically just trying to think through for people who do have a bench boost left. I think backing a Richarlison or a DCL isn't a bad shout in 36 as well.
It doesn't
The
work
main
for
issue with
me.
36, yeah, sorry, go
But
ahead.
go ahead. Yeah.
Now, I was going to say the main issue with 36 is going to be that you're going to compromise your 11. You're going to compromise your 11 because you'll need a lot of budget to afford a De Bruyne, a Salah, a premium backline, a Foden, or a Havertz, and a Kane. Potentially, maybe you can't even afford it. Kane will have to be the sacrifice, but that's the main issue. So if you went for it, if you wildcarded, how much Spurs do you get? And if you basically avoid Spurs, then the Spurs fixtures around 36 are very good. So that's the dilemma. So I get the appeal of avoiding the bench boost in 36, but it sounds, on the face of it, it sounds a bit like people like me who avoided the triple captain in 26, right? I mean, it's the best week. Most teams are doubling. Why wouldn't you bench boost in 36? That's basically where it comes down to. But I can see the appeal for 37. My thing for 37 will simply be just be careful on how you calibrate your team in 34, 35. You don't want to basically lose upside in 38 just because you have one extra bench booster in 37.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. Food for thought. I think I'm leaning towards 33, as I mentioned previously. But, um, the issue with, as you mentioned, who Everton is DCL and Richarlison, who's very expensive for that forward slot, is as someone with a wild card and a free hit. If I'm free hitting at 36 or free hitting at 37, it just doesn't make sense for me to load up on them. So essentially, that leaves me with a wild card of if I have to bench boost in 36 or 37, or sorry, in 36, I would have to most likely go to Cucho plus who's the other guy? Pookie.
Pookie or
Yeah,
Mateta.
yeah, or even Watford player. So, or sorry, not Watford player. Cucho and Pookie exactly. So I'm just not convinced on that. And as you mentioned, I'd rather just get it out of the way in 33 and then really just focus on having a solid team from 34 onwards, 35 onwards, and just free hit out of whatever week is convenient for me, which is 36.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the slight dent on this strategy,
Mm-hmm.
on dead ending the bench boost and wildcarding 34, has been the fact that there's no doubles in 34, 35. So
Mm.
the advantage of the wild card is slightly reduced. Now, of course, you can get it by attacking City, getting De Bruyne that other people don't have, or Foden. But the problem with not having any doubles in 34, 35 is, that advantage that you can get, the immediate upside from the wild card, maybe
Yeah.
because you get three doublers instead of other people's one, that's slightly diluted. And therefore, it also, for me, slightly dilutes the point that you could just now wildcard to bench boost later, which has been the traditional play. So there's pros and cons for each, I think. And I also think bench boost 36 is fine. People don't all have a free hit, right? So if you were to pick one between 36 and 37, I would personally still pick 36 as the bench boost week simply because there's a lot more options. There's a
Mm.
lot more options. If there's an injury leading up to that week, you can switch somebody. For example, if you're planning for 37 and Coutinho limps off in 36, where do you go? You'll have to basically restructure it. So
Mm.
I still think absent a free hit, 36 probably slightly better. With the free hit like you have, maybe free hitting in 36, bench boosting in 36, 37 is pretty powerful. So I get that.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, I just still like the bench free hit 36, 37 because you could, fill up on Chelsea, Villa, Palace, Leicester to go alongside those Spurs, Liverpool, City. That just makes more sense to me right now. But okay,
Yep.
fair. Mm.
Yeah. And last point for me on if you don't bench boost in 33, you're basically fixed because there's no other week where you can change things, right?
Yeah.
So when you wildcard in 34, you're fixed on free hit 36, you're fixed on bench boost 37. Whereas, let's say if the City doubles happens in 37, people who don't are not hamstrung by the bench boost, we can just choose, okay, 36 looks fine. I'll free hit in 37 instead. So you have to think about your competition as well in terms of, what that landscape is. So I'm still leaning on, if you think you can back a Livramento, a Broha, then just play it in 33. That would be my pick, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good discussion there. Should we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I mean, as you're going to the next slide, I'm going to just spend 1 minute talking about some people who have other chip strategies. So people who have two free hits, I think we talked about 33 is still strong. You can still back yourself in 33 and then keep the optionality for 36, 37. If you have a triple captain left, I think game week 36 still is the week to back. Even though Salah looks out of form, people are unconvinced. I think having Spurs at home, Villa away is a good enough fixture to back. And I think if that's not the case, you go for a James or a Cancelo. I mean, James less so with the rotation risk. Cancelo, whichever double he gets, 36 to 37, you can back him, or even Trent. So that's for the people with free hit or a triple captain. For the people only with the bench boost, it's just easier to target 36. Yeah, is what I said, because there's just so many doubles. So I think 36 is still the week, or maybe 37 if you wanted to go for that. So that's basically where I wanted to end it.
Okay. Okay, I think we should move on instead of answering questions because it's already almost 40 minutes. So what we have here is just the 32 game week fixture ticker ordered by difficulty. So, just on quick glance, Leeds away versus Watford is, I think, pretty decent at attacking wise. And what's his name? Jesse Marsh has really done a good job of basically keeping them in the league, and I think they're for sure now safe. And they look pretty decent. So if you have Rafinha, I would hold. I don't think he's a buy, obviously, but because they blank in 33 followed by really bad fixture run. So Rafinha you do hold. Burnley away versus Norwich. Weghorst. This is why we bought him in 31 for a double, plus Norwich, plus another double. But, what do we expect here? Not much. So West Ham versus Brentford, interesting. Bowen, great asset, but difficult to get him in with the amount of midfielders we have to choose from. And the next two fixtures are good, but they're not, they're not focused on the Premier League as much, I think, even though they do have a chance of maybe top four, very unlikely. And plus, as good as Bowen was in the Everton game, his goal was sort of, or as much as he hauled, his goal was a little bit fluky, in my opinion. So, unfortunately, Bowen is someone that I would not go for probably the rest of the season, and probably someone we consider next season as well. So, another one is Leicester versus Crystal Palace this week. Very interesting. Leicester also have very good fixtures from 32, 34. And they have three doubles left. So very interesting for those with very few chips left. Where do you go is very difficult because they're semi on the beach as well. But Madison and Barnes both look appealing. Personally, I thought Barnes looked fantastic this last game. So someone to consider, especially for me as well, for a 33 transfer. Iheanacho coming back to life, but let's keep an eye on him. And we do remember the good vibes we had from. Did you have Iheanacho last season, by the way, Pras?
I did.
When you
For
when you,
his
when you went crazy?
yeah, we had this patch of Lingard and Iheanacho
Yeah.
returns, right? For no underlying stats. Actually, Iheanacho was fine. It was more Lingard, but yeah, I did have him.
Yeah. And then Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, all good fixtures. So interesting, tough fixtures on paper. For this game week is Aston Villa versus Tottenham. In terms of for Aston Villa, I think Tottenham will do well. So I think the reason I mentioned this is because many will have the likes of Coutinho, Watkins, Ramsey, and Dean. And this is a very interesting dilemma because when we get to the question of what do we do with City versus Liverpool and do we bench any of our City versus Liverpool assets, essentially it's going to come down to opportunity costs and kind of weighing out those players versus do I start Dean or Coutinho, or not Dean but a Coutinho, for example, over let's say a Liverpool player, although most of our Liverpool players will be defensive assets. So interesting fixture there. Tottenham look really, really good right now. I'm very excited to own three of my favorite Tottenham players. So good one there. And then obviously City and Liverpool we'll get into a little bit later. So any first thoughts on the fixtures for 32?
No, look, everyone's looking at their bus teams and thinking it doesn't look great, and captaincy is an issue. So this is why for the viewers and listeners, we wanted to spend a little bit of time on Game Week 32. Obviously, that's the next one coming up, but thinking about benching, thinking about captaincy, a lot of people are loaded up on triple Liverpool and now even Cancelo, like myself.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what to do with them. Shall we play them over Weghorst or not? Shall we captain Salah or De Bruyne or not? So basically, 32 is an interesting game week. I definitely don't think it's a game week to use any chips. I definitely don't think it's a game week to wildcard. So let's spend time on it and talk about some of the players, some of the matchups, and see where we can go and maybe help people resolve their captaincy and benching issues. So
Sure.
you've aptly named this Clash of the Titans. We're obviously talking about Burnley Everton. No, I'm joking. No, we're talking about Man City Liverpool. So take it away.
I guess quick question is first question is shall we play all our Liverpool and City assets? So I'm assuming we probably have a total of what, maybe 3 or 4 or even up to 5. So yeah, that's the first question. And again, it just comes down for me to opportunity cost. For example, this week might end up being the last. This week is the last thing you want to do this week is to bench Doherty again, right? And if you think of this simply, it's a team-based thing. For example, in my team, do I play Doherty over I don't know Robertson, or do I play Robertson over Doherty or Dean, for example? And so the question comes down to basically who's the better player to play against in your team. So I think it's a very simple answer. It's not as complicated as it's maybe meant out to be. Maybe the slightly trickier ones would be someone like Ben White, who I do believe played Brighton, but all of a sudden Arsenal's defensive unit looks quite shaky, especially based on the previous game. Although it is one game and we wouldn't read too much into it, but missing Tierney and Tomoyasu pretty much gone forever is very very worrying for that Arsenal defense. I guess my first question would be, what do you think about this? Another example is, do you maybe the more trickier one would be like, let's say you have Laporte. Do you bench Laporte or do you play Doherty, for example? That's one that would be more. How do you you use your EV, right? So I would assume that you think Doherty will get possibly 6 points against Aston Villa. If you lock that in, then Laporte I don't think gets more than 6 points because of his clean sheet potential, although he has some attacking returns in him. But do you bench him for Cancelo? Difficult to say, right? I think I would start Cancelo over Doherty in that case. So yeah.
Let's talk about the game first. How do you see the Liverpool City game? Sorry, the City Liverpool game.
I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think it's going to be like a 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 sort of game where they'll be counterpunching each other. I think City will have more possession, but Liverpool is just as dangerous on the counter. Same with City. So it's hard to predict, but I would predict many goals. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so Pep was quite pragmatic when he went to Anfield earlier, right? And I mean, these games are obviously hard to call, and the way it is obviously it starts cagey. If one of the teams scores early, then you predict lots of goals, but it can remain cagey as well. It can probably remain cagey for 60, 70 minutes. So it could be anything from a 0-0 to a 1-0 to either side to a 3-2 type game that you're talking about. So question is, if it is a high scoring game, are you backing against your attacking wingbacks? Because Cancelo, Robertson, and Trent are attacking wingbacks. They will probably, if the game ends in 0-0 or 1-0 to either side, you get your points. And if there are goals, you get your points on the other side of the pitch. So for me, people debating mass benching Cancelo, Trent, Robertson, I think for me that's just a no-go. Captaincy, you can be a little bit more cagey on. So if you're not backing a Salah, if you have a De Bruyne, fine, I can understand if you're not backing them. But I think playing most of your most of your City and City and Liverpool assets is the way to go. I don't even I don't even think Doherty comes into it or Arsenal assets come into it. I think it's just simple as if it's a centre back, if it's a Matip or a Laporte, I think you're right. Those guys have a six ceiling. You can't predict a Laporte goal every game or a Van Dijk or a Matip goal. So you have to go with the fact that even though the EV may be similar or slightly higher to a Doherty or a White, you sorry, a Doherty or a any other wing back you can think of, fine, you can bench those guys because ultimately these two teams are also the most attacking teams in the league. So you are expecting some output. So I think that's the main point we wanted to make in terms of Man City versus Liverpool benching issues. But other aspects of the game, Sonaldo, I know you've done some analysis on it. Let's cover that in terms of how people can think about which players to basically target for the run-in and also in relation to this game.
Well, first of all, I want to ask: is Hoki Koki Mohamed Salah something you would even consider for get off him for probably just a single game week, right? For 32,
Not two. I mean, you probably also then. So
33. Yeah,
let's say if
Bruno.
Ted and I talked about it last stream on selling Trent, and basically he was injured, and you ended up selling Trent because we got some concrete news that he isn't starting. I think given the fixtures, the way they landed for Liverpool, if you weren't getting the Watford game, and if you're only saying they have City and a Man United, and even if you were on free hit, you would be willing to back against a Salah for a Bruno, for example. It could, of course, go wrong, but if you were willing to do that, then I think if you have a wild card in hand, you could look to go out of Salah. If you don't have a wild card in hand, I still maintain you have 7 transfers left for the rest of the season. Don't use them, two of them, to take Salah out and then back in, because I don't think a strategy of going now to Bruno. In fact, there was a question in the chat earlier. You could sell Sana, go to Bruno now until 33, then you go to De Bruyne for the rest of the season. Look, it can work, but this guy has the best underlying stats in the league. He's the only player who is a nailed talisman in the top two teams. Even De Bruyne is in the talisman. He's probably nailed, but not a talisman. So Salah's the only one who's in most points and nailed in the attacking team. It's not worth it. I mean, if you're ranked 500k and your season's over and you want to do it, do it. But I think you're playing with fire, and it has more likelihood of backfiring than working out. So I personally wouldn't recommend it without a wild card to go Salah out.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But if you do have a wild card, it's tempting. It's very tempting. I mean, you could even go to KDB, right? I just think KDB is going crazy right now, and he's firmly on my mind. But you could also go to, you know who I'm going to say. You could go to
Bruno.
Sonny. No. You could go to Sonny.
Okay, well, you have him, but no,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You could be unique and get the double up on the Spurs assets, but I don't know.
I mean, for most have triple up anyway, because those that don't have Son have Kulusevski.
True.
So it would mean basically taking out Kulusevski and then also taking out Salah, getting one Son and somebody else. But I do get the Bruno debate because Bruno is playing Everton this week
And then double.
and then has a double. So you could look at that and then you just wildcard out of it. So that could work. But I think people have pointed out in the chat, absolutely, I agree. Salah could score a brace against City. He could score a brace against Man United, and you wouldn't be surprised. So why would you back against somebody like that? And EO doesn't even come into it. I swear, if Salah was 30% owned, my answer would remain the same. It's not about being scared of the points or other people getting the points if he does well. It's just about the fact that he is the most attacking player, a nailed player in the best attacking team in the league. So
yeah, I mean, by no means am I saying Salah is a bad asset at all. He's still probably the best asset in the game. But what if you're chasing? What if is might be a meta question, but if you're chasing, is this something worth it, or is this the wrong way to think about chasing rank?
if you're chasing, anything is now we're at the end game. Anything is okay. You could captain James this week if you're chasing, right? I mean, anything and everything works if you're chasing. You can go against the masses, but you have to calibrate risk versus reward. And I don't think the risk reward profile is correct for a Son, for example. Son is not going to score a 15-pointer. 3 weeks ago, people were looking at selling Son. Many sold Son. So, there is no right answer. Let's say if there was a Salah equivalent, let's say Mahrez played every single game for City, every single game. and he was a similar price, and you couldn't afford Mahrez and Salah, and you went to Mahrez, I can see it. But is there anybody else who has the same upside over the next 2 game weeks? I don't think Bruno is. I don't think Son is.
We'll see about that. We'll see about that. But yeah, fair. So what I did here is a little bit of a fun analysis and a pattern I saw on Man City. I think I need to proceed with caution here. And first of all, you know, this is fun. This is a very interesting thing I found out. But I don't know if it really helps FPL. It might not at all. But I just found a pattern that I found interesting with Cancelo and KDB. And what this is basically what happens when Cancelo is deployed on the left, which is what he frequently does. I think against the Champions League game last night, it wasn't him on the left. I believe it was Ake on the left from the highlights I watched. This really is very interesting to me because what I saw in the United game a couple game weeks ago and the previous game against Burnley was exactly the same. And I just want to have fun with this because I really like looking into some tactics. But when they're defending City, they're playing a 4-back, right? So as you can see here, Cancelo and Walker on the right. And in both cases versus United and Burnley, KDB went big. He had 2 goals and 1 assist against United, and against Burnley he had a goal and was very, very involved. When Man City do attack, a formation shift happens where Walker slots into a 3-back and Cancelo pretty much bombs up the wing or becomes like an inside forward, almost like an attacker, right? And so it's very interesting how involved and how important how important Cancelo actually is to Pep, regardless of how many FPL points he gets. And so what I mean by this is how they line up, right? And so you can see Cancelo and Walker on the left and right back positions. And when they attack, this is sort of what happens. So Cancelo's bombing forward. And eventually they get to sort of this kind of formation when they're attacking. And the emphasis here is they are very, very heavily concentrated on the left zone. And they kind of isolate Mahrez, Sterling on the right and KDB alone sort of in that central right position. So if you look at the Burnley game, this is the Burnley game, you can see that Man City's most of the attacking come from 43% from the left side. The heat map also shows that. And then you can see the bunched up Man City players on the left side as well in the average attacking positions. Very interesting. And then same exact thing happened against United. Left side 50% Cancelo, heat map all on the left side and bunched up on the left side. And you can see Burnley or Manchester United defending on the right side as well. So basically, I just wanted to present this to show, how important Cancelo is and how much he changes this game or changes Pep's team, and we talk about how important he is and why he plays so many minutes, but there's a reason why, and he's just that good and that versatile of a player. Plus, he can play on the right as well. So, very, very interesting. When it comes down to actually picking out the FPL assets for Man City, it just really comes down to X minutes, right? So. For me, Cancelo is a lock here. Laporte is a very good shout, cheaper, plus he's probably going to play most of the games, and you want to double up on that defense. I think it's completely fair. From what I presented here, I think it's very interesting to look at Sterling as an option and Mahrez as well, although their minutes are going to be rotated and they're way too expensive to actually get to. But KDB is just as important as Cancelo to this team, and he's finding the form as well. So I'm very interested in KDB as well. And lastly, whoever plays the false nine position is going to benefit greatly, and for me has to be Foden most of the time if he does play in that position. So. We already know everything we need to know about Man City and who we pick, and it's just going to come down to whether you get the minutes right, especially with the final home stretch of the season coming down to how close that race is, and so depending on how close that race is, it's going to be who's going to be vital to Pep's tactics for me, and so that's
Yeah.
kind of a fun analysis. A fun pattern I found in recent times. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I would also add to your point, the right forward. So because of Cancelo, when he plays on the left, the right forward basically comes into the box
Mm,
for all those tap-ins, which is why Sterling when he plays on the right has been
exactly.
very
Mm,
effective. And Mahrez when he plays there is doing very well. So
mm,
look, completely get it. And this is the X minutes point is why I think, we are saying we are all targeting City now for the run-in because they want to win the league. But then I'm also saying I want to target City for the free hit. And these can both be true. Both can be true because right now for the run in, if you wanted long term, I think you can't get to De Bruyne because you
mm,
have Salah and Foden. Now, people who are looking to sell Salah, fine. I'm not talking to that. But I think the popular strategy will be to hold a Kane and a Salah or a Salah and a Son. So if you're saying you can't get to a De Bruyne, I think on a run rate basis, you can get to a Foden, a Cancelo, maybe a Laporte.
mm.
On a free hit, you can go mad. You can go De Bruyne, Sterling, and a
Yes,
Cancelo.
Sterling. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is what makes the free hitting for City worth it. Is based on the information at the time, based on any injuries, suspensions. You make the call for the two assets that will get you the highest upside, and you add on to those the three assets that will get you the highest upside from Liverpool, the three that get you the highest upside from other good doublers, and that for me becomes a good free hit team. And that's basically coming back to the original discussion. It's okay to target City, even if you're looking to free hit in the week whenever City doubles.
Yeah. I do want to give my differential shout, and that would be Raheem Sterling. I think Sterling is one of those type of players that you remember in the beginning of the season where he was kind of struggling and people were on him. And the thing about Sterling is when he does find his form, he's really really good. He's unbelievable actually. He's top player. And there was a quote by Pep after the last Premier League game. I don't think he started the last game because Mahrez is the preferred choice for the Champions League. Interestingly, that's just how good this team is, right? But after the last Premier League game, Pep said, you can see how decisive he was in all actions and the assists, and he creates 1-2s on the right side. 1-2s. Guess who that is? KDB and Sterling on that right side, isolated, as I mentioned in what I presented. And I have a feeling he's arriving in a really good moment. So he also says he's a guy who can play every 3 days. He is never injured. It's important for the club to have players like him, Phil, Riyad, Bernardo, who are never injured. We have not got a massively deep squad. Yeah. But basically saying he's seeing Sterling find his form, and we can see it ourselves as well. Plus KDB, and this team is scary, and I'm very very convinced that I need to be tripling up on them no matter what. And the issue with me and Laporte, as safe as his X minutes is, the upside in these attackers are unbelievable. So it's tough for me to double up on their defense, but very very interesting food for thought I wanted to present. Yeah.
One word of caution for City is there has been. So City is known for the team that doesn't give up, right? Even if they're 5-0 up, they'll keep running, keep pressing, keep pushing, keep making the sprints. And so this is why they end up having a lot more batterings. Um, there could be an argument that they see out games a lot
Yeah.
more,
True.
given that they need to conserve energy. So just a word of caution that the City we may end up getting, and this could be true of Liverpool, this could be true of anyone in Europe, Chelsea. They just be more pragmatic in the games in the run-in, even if there's a lot to play for.
Yep. So next time you see Cancelo start on the left, Walker start on the right, and you see KDB and Sterling there, you know for sure Sterling and KDB is going to be eating up those points. So very very also very just fun to watch them play, right? So this next Clash of the Titans is going to be exciting times for us.
Yeah, as a neutral, I hate both teams, so I'm not getting too excited over that.
Okay. Very last one before we get to our bus teams is captaincy talk, and of course I included my two non-favorite players and the team I don't really like. So we have Son and Kane in here. What are you thinking? Initial thoughts for Gaming 32 captaincy? Are you for sure you're not going to go to Salah? I'm assuming.
Salah, no.
Hmm.
I have a few options, so I can talk in the context of my team or more broadly as well. So look, I think I'm keen on Spurs, and I think that'll be the most popular choice. So whoever you have out of Kane or Son could be an option. I mean, Villa are looking shaky. Um, Villa are a very Jekyll and Hyde side. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
game week 28 they transformed into Barcelona, and then suddenly again they're looking not so great. And Dean continues to disappoint their managers and the fans of Villa. But look, I think Spurs are just doing so well. Their XG is, I think, now third best in the league. So you can back them in terms of their attack. People who have Son and Kane like yourselves are in a good spot. And for me, like Kane, I think I'm happy to back Kane. So obviously that will be the popular choice. But I think this week it'll be split simply because some people may just choose to go Salah regardless. Some people may choose to go for the Arsenal assets. I think Saka would have been a lot more popular had Arsenal not just lost to Palace. Now, did Arsenal lose to Palace because Palace were that good or because of the injuries? So, can you really make a case for going for a Saka given the circumstances? I think you probably can. Just because there are some injury issues and Tierney is out and Partey is out, I think Brighton is looking pretty poor. They're in the sense on the beach very early this season. I speak to, Az is not that confident on Brighton's chances, for example. So Arsenal
He's
assets are
always
worth
not
consideration.
confident on
Yeah,
Brighton's
well,
chances.
so you could look at a Saka. I mean, Brighton at home is as good as it gets in terms of the fixtures now.
Yep.
So he's an option. I think James is an option. So people who have Havertz or James, they play tonight. Real Madrid, big game. Let's see how he comes through that game. I expect James to start now that he didn't start over the weekend. If he gets through 60 minutes, comes off, looks good, X minutes is always going to be a risk with James. I mean, me as a James owner, I'm just going to play James every game for the rest of the season. And then, whichever game he starts or does well in, I'm happy to take his points. I'm also happy to take his cameos. So that's the way. Captaincy may be a stretch too far. So that's where I'm at in terms of thinking. And of course, those Weghorst fans, he plays Norwich as well. You'll be disappointed to see that I have him on my bench right now, but he's also an option. I mean, anyone playing Norwich is an option. And then last but not least, Rafinha is an option as well. Watford is always a good fixture to target. When you share the fixture ticker, they have the easiest fixture this game week. Marsh is doing well with the team. They
Yep.
have looked better. Actually, defensively, they've looked a lot better as well. So I'm not saying go for a Leeds defender, but I think Rafinha is one to back as well.
Yeah, interesting. You're exactly right about Saka. I thought Saka, I think I even maybe replied to somebody right before the game saying I wouldn't sleep on Saka as a captaincy option for Game Week 32. But I actually watched this game or most of it, and they just it was crazy. It's so crazy how a team can look so drastically different after the weeks and weeks of just amazing football. So it's really hard to actually kind of digest and evaluate what just happened because you want to just call it a one-off game, and most likely it is. But there are some key factors that were missing from that Arsenal team, including the wing backs plus Partey, who has been great all season, has had looked really really bad in this game. So I think that has to factor to do with it all. And as much as Arsenal's trio or quadruple of those young players, Odegaard, who's on the left, Martinelli, ESR, and Saka are great youngsters and great players in their own right. It's really worrying that they still lack a target man and a pure scoring striker. Lacazette is a good player that offers a unique sort of, Benzema-esque, support role, 9.5 type of player. But the fact that they're missing a player who can score goals, and that when they can't produce goals with that creativity and youngster talent, is going to be a worrying sign. So very keen to watch how Arsenal do. I'm not saying Arsenal's bad at all. They're still a great team. They're in form, and they're playing for a lot, the top four, and it's worrying as Arsenal fans because their fixtures are not as good as Spurs either. So We'll see how this wire comes down to, but just the safer pick for me is either Kane or Son. And in a week like this, where I'm sure Kane will be more popular than Son, just because more people have him too, I am pretty convinced I'm going to be backing my boy Sonny for this game week. And every time I put a captaincy on him, it turns out well. So I'm going to make a few calls, tell him to get me 2 goals, and then be laughing all the way to the points bank. So just kidding, guys. But I'm pretty convinced I'll be going to Sun for captaincy this week. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Look, can't fault it. I think I'm still backing Kane over Son just because of the underlying data. I didn't buy the whole sell Son. I'm not buying the whole let's now all get Son. I think whichever one you have is fine. I still think out of the two, unquestionably, and I don't have unquestionable opinions
Ooh.
on a lot of things, Kane is better.
Yeah.
Whether you make the switch, I'm still not saying you make the switch, but Kane is a better FPL asset than Son. And I'll tell you simply, not because one is a better player or one will get more points. It's simply because you're struggling to have a striker, one striker in your 11, and Sun takes up that position. Of course, if you have both, it's fine. But if you have only one, it has to be Kane and not Sun, so that you can have five good midfielders and only Kane up front. And I think 4-5-1, 5-4-1 is the only formation that is working right now. There's just no other forwards. So
Yeah.
if you have a Sun and no Kane, you're basically in your 11, you're playing one bad player every week, and that's the issue.
I'm, again, 95% sure I'll go to Sun. But if someone asked me, and they had both, I would still suggest Kane, because Kane is just an incredible player. And this game, everybody hauled on that Spurs team except Kane, but he was creating everything, and it's just so fun to watch. So he's in form, looking good. So Kane with penalties as well. So a very good shout, I think, in my opinion. So. That is good for the captaincy talk. Let us finalize on our bus teams and then finish the stream today. So I do believe I have your team up first, Pras. Can you read it out for the listeners, please?
Yep, I need to open it 1 second.
I'll read it out for you while you open it.
Okay. All right.
So this is Pras's team. He has Ramsdale in goal. He's playing a 4-5-1. And very interesting, we're moving towards the meta of a 4-5-1, 5-4-1.
4-5-1 is going to be my formation for the rest of the season. I'm not
Exactly.
changing.
Yeah.
And that's or 5-4-1. Yeah, like you said. Okay,
Yep.
I have the team open. Shall I
Go ahead,
carry on?
please. Yep.
Okay, so Ramsdale, as you mentioned, I'm still confident on Arsenal, especially Ramsdale. Given this is a home fixture, we talked about it just now. They will come back. The motivation is there. It's a home game. Defensively, if I was in double up, I'd be more worried. But single game week, Ramsdale over Sa, no question. I benched Doherty, much to my pain over the weekend. I still back my decision because I played Robertson over Doherty in that fixture. In this one, I've basically de-risked it a little bit. I'm playing Trent and Cancelo, but I'm benching Robertson. And I think Robertson could still do fine, but I don't want to play double Liverpool defense against City. So I'm playing Trent, Cancelo, James, and Doherty as my back four. And in midfield, I have Kulusevski, Salah, Martinelli, Saka, and Rafinha. I think all of these guys have decent fixtures, decent potentials. I'm backing Arsenal again from an attacking point of view against Brighton, so there's no way I'm benching Martinelli. The only decision I have to make is Kulusevski versus Weghorst. I think Villa away is a fine fixture, but Norwich away is also an easy fixture for Weghorst. So I need to see how Weghorst looks tonight and then decide between the two who I start. But I think everyone else is there and Kane captain up front. So I'll probably stick to Kane captain unless James does something tonight that makes me basically tempted.
Yeah, that's an incredible team. Incredible team.
People said last week, and I'm on like a 3K green arrow.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but
3K red arrow.
that's just an outcome. I mean, just goes to show how good of a manager you are, or great of a manager you are, Pras, and how good of a planning you are. And guys, this is a tip that you can pick up from my interactions and learning from Pras myself as well, is he usually goes, I think, 5 game weeks ahead and sort of makes a wild card. So very interesting thing that I
Whenever
picked
there's
up
a
from
fixture
you.
swing, whenever there's
Okay,
like
fixture
a
swing.
whenever I feel there's a window that people will wildcard, which is basically also means there's a window that things are shifting. right? So in early season, that was while game week 7 or 8, and then there was another one when Man U's fixtures got good in 15. Then there was another one in 22, then another one in 26 and 31. So I usually make one and then I say, how can I get to this team? For example, where that plays into it is a lot of people are looking at a Leicester defender, right now
Mm-hmm.
because they have Tierney. I would never go there personally for my team because in my wildcard 34 team that I've projected now, I won't have a Leicester defender. So why should I get stuck with the Leicester defender now
Mm.
just because they have two good fixtures leading up to it? I would rather have the back line that I want to target for the rest of the season on a game week 34 wildcard if I had one. And I think the game week 34 wildcard will have this back line that I have now,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically Trent, Robertson, Cancelo, James, and Doherty. That's why I'm on that a little earlier, even if it means I give up on a few points leading up to it. That's basically the thinking. And obviously having this good a defense backfired this week where I had to bench Doherty, but that's just how it works out. So that's fine.
Yeah. Are you concerned at all about James's minutes? Real Madrid, Southampton, Real Madrid.
I'm concerned, yes, concerned enough not to captain him. But basically, my play with James is I'm not going to predict when he will start. I'm basically just going to continue to play him. I mean, he got that assist even in the 30-minute cameo, which was ruled out, I think, where Havertz
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
offside or there was a foul leading up to it, and James was the one who assisted. If there are goals from Chelsea, James will be involved. I don't care if he plays 30 minutes or 90 minutes.
Yeah. So it's just you play him every time, and you know he's going to haul at least once or twice for the remainder of the
Yeah, and
season.
I've given him
Mm.
the vice captaincy. If he shows me something against Real Madrid, then
Mm. That's awesome. Robertson on the bench, crazy, and yeah, Weghorst versus Norwich on the bench, and it makes sense. It really does make sense in your case. So, yeah, nice one.
I'm not basically people are considering Trent versus Weghorst. For me, that's not a competition.
Yeah, no chance. Yeah.
Trent will get um, has a equal clean sheet odds, even though it's City, as Weghorst's his scoring odds, and then you add Trent's attacking potential. So for me, that's not a debate. Kulusevski, I'm still thinking about. Martinelli, I'm not thinking about. So it's between Kulusevski and Weghorst. Martinelli and Trent are starting for sure. Robertson, I see some comments in the chat. Robertson benching. I'm not comfortable benching Robertson, just like I wasn't comfortable benching Doherty last week. But who am I gonna, bench instead? I'm not playing Robertson instead of a. I think Kulusevski and Weghorst still have a higher upside than Robertson. It is what it is. I can't have everyone.
Yes, Robertson owners, we are smiling right now looking at Process Team. But
Well, I have Trent. You don't have Trent. So, I mean, Dhruv is asking Cancelo versus Weghorst, not even a competition.
yeah,
Cancelo any day. Both Trent and Cancelo are the best assets in the game after Salah, and they need to start no matter what the fixture is.
there was a quote by Sean Dyke, I think maybe this today or a couple days ago, where he said, "My team needs to shoot more. We need to do more shooting practice or something," which just goes to show that they're really lacking goals and ways to score. So makes complete sense. If they do really well in this coming fixture tonight against Everton, would your thought process change at all? And would you throw?
Between him and Kulusevski, but to be honest,
Mhm.
I'm not expecting anything tonight. In fact, there's also some rumors that he might be on the bench tonight. So sorry to disappoint anyone that, don't have very high expectations of Weghorst.
Mm.
I have no ITK, by the way. This is just based on fan opinion. That he may actually give it a miss this game week. So, look, I probably shouldn't have gone for Weghorst. He had the double, and I know I'm being reactive after a City game. We weren't expecting anything against City anyway. Let's see how it goes. I thought there would be some upside. If there's an injury, for example, then I'm happy to start Weghorst this week. But I don't want to be hamstrung like I was last week, where I'm starting Weghorst at the expense of good players. That's what I don't want.
Got you. Okay, and then we have my team here. I have Ramsdale in goal, Robertson, Doherty, Cancelo, 3 back, 5 in the midfield, Son, Salah, Saka, Odegaard, Ramsey. By the way, I didn't do the captaincy, vice captaincy yet, so apologies here. Kane and Weghorst up top. On the bench, I have De Gea, Luca Digne, Livermento, and Broya. And Livermento and Broya likely won't go anywhere due to my plan to keep the option and flexibility of BB in 33, which leaves me to have 2 players I really want to get out of my team, which is Dean and Ramsey for now. So with the amount of money I have, I think I have 0.5. It's really, really tight. I'm really limited on options right now. So the one thing I'm thinking of with my plan for BB33 is to possibly go for, I'm blanking on the name right now. The Newcastle defender for Lucas Digne. Who's a Newcastle defender that just scored?
Shar or
Shar,
target
yeah,
or
Shar.
burn?
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
thinking about going to Shar to create funds for a Ramsey upgrade for Game Week 33. But
So you're not looking Salah out for bench boost, is it?
uh, possibly, very possibly. But
Or Trent out?
I think I'm going to go without Trent till 34. Yeah, I already don't have Trent.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
sorry. Or
yeah.
Robertson out. Sorry, I meant Robertson.
No, I think I'm going to keep Robertson. I just like the way Robertson looks right now. But I don't think I'll get rid of Salah. Salah could easily do well against Man City. So, yeah.
So this is obviously assuming you will bench boost in 33.
This is obviously assuming the Shar move is obviously assuming. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you weren't bench boosting,
Um, I don't know. I don't think I've thought that far. I don't think I would
you should probably then save FT
touch my
and
team. Yeah,
just attack
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
33
Yep.
and in the 11, not in the bench.
Yeah. If I decide to not do anything in 33, yeah, if I don't decide to do not anything in 33, then I'll just say roll the transfer this week and have 2 moving into 33. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Good.
Yeah. It's a weak
Oh,
team,
by
but
the way, I
we'll
didn't
see.
say in my team I'm saving free transfer. So that's, yeah, I mean, we presented the team,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I didn't say that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in again. Thanks, Pras, for your trip to New York, and it was nice to talk to you again. Yeah.
Likewise.
Any last words, my friend?
No, good luck to everyone. I think this is a good week to save for most people. Teams should be looking good. If you save this week, then you're basically, you can decide if you want to attack 33, if you want to do something else. So it's a good week to save. So while you should think about your strategy, um, you can do that. You have a couple of weeks to think about. This is why we didn't do a very deep dive on bench boost 36, 37. We talked about it, but we'll have time to discuss all of that after 33.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you again next week. Have a great week, and good luck to all.
Good luck, all.